Good day, everyone. This is Dr. Francis Espinola, lead physical therapist of First Shepherd Therapy and Healthcare Staffing. Hi, you all. Thank you very much for taking the time to tune in to Lead Well. Today, here's a Sunday morning here in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. I'm excited to just bring you a wonderful content about spiritual leadership. First and foremost, if you are watching live, please comment LEAD, LEAD. And if you're watching replay, please comment well, WELL. Okay, so just want to thank our major sponsor, First Shepherd Therapy and Healthcare Staffing, Dallas Fort Worth, Texas, where you can find quality physical and occupational therapy services right at your home. And we are still hiring physical therapists, PT assistants, occupational therapists, and OT assistants to serve our wonderful patients in the DFW region. If you like to reach us out, please call us at 214-444-5959. Email us at firstshepherdmain@gmail.com and firstshepherdhealthcarestaffing.com. So, this is a very wonderful talk today here in Leadwell. And I would like to apologize if there's some lags that's going on in advance because this is the first time I'll do like a live um, talk and also playing a video. This is a pre-recorded video about a couple of weeks ago, but you can still comment and share and like this video. Post if you have a question, post it right there in the comment section, and I will be gladly to answer those questions also with the help of PB down the road. Okay, so I would like to introduce our guest today. His name is Dr. Bong Baylon. He is the founder and senior pastor of Real Life Christian Communities, or RLCC, in the Philippines. He is also an adjunct faculty of the International Graduate School of Leadership, or IGSL, also based in the Philippines. He's married to Pastor Gina Bailon and has two sons, John David and Joseph Emmanuel. Plus, he is also doing a lot of podcasts, doing preaching almost every day. So, without further ado, let's go and meet Dr. Bong Bailon. Good day, Lead Dwellers. This is Dr. Francis Espinola. And right now, joining me on this episode is Dr. Bong Bailon. Woo.
Hello there.
Hello. Hi,
Hello,
PB.
Francis.
By the way, I call him PB to make it easier. All right.
Sure, no problem. Yeah,
Okay. How are you doing today, PB?
I'm okay. I'm glad to be your guest in this podcast. So thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, and this is I would say, a Guinness World Record for you because you're the first interview for this podcast, and it's a pleasure to do so.
Wow, what an honor! What an honor to be your first. Hopefully, not your only guest, in your podcast. But thanks for giving me that
Of
privilege.
course, and many more to come for sure as we move along with many more episodes to come, PB.
Sure.
Just to give you a heads up, guys, with PB, we call him in our church in Real Life Christian Communities back home in the Philippines as our techie pastor. So I'm not just getting the benefits of the blessings of the leadership, mentoring, but also the technical aspect of broadcasting with with everything alongside with it. So thank you very much, PB, for that.
Yeah, you're
Okay,
welcome.
yeah. So Let me start with a very simple question. What have you been
Hmm.
doing or focusing lately as a leader?
Well, since the pandemic, I've basically trimmed down my leadership activities. I used to
Mm.
be quite busy also with the Global Leadership Summit.
Oh.
But yeah, during the start of this year, I basically got out of that role and started really focusing on our church, Real Life Christian Communities, and of course, I still teach in seminary. I'm still an adjunct professor. Hopefully, I don't adjunct, but I am an adjunct professor at the International Graduate School of Leadership here
Oh.
in the Philippines. So those are just my two roles right now. I'm not doing anything else, just being a pastor and also a part-time professor in seminary.
Mm. How did you find this season of leadership during the pandemic? What has changed?
Well, even before the pandemic, we've been trying to, go into a digital kind of presence, and so it's been quite a while that we've been doing it. We, of course, were not so skilled at first,
Mm.
but we did our best to be online, to be a digital church. At the same time, being a church with a physical location. But during the pandemic, we were forced to really just focus on the digital space, which is good because that forced us to really,
Mm.
improve our ability to be online. And we have learned a lot, and we're still learning, of course.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a good experience, and I would consider that to be a blessing, actually.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things that we could not have done if not for the pandemic forcing us to, pivot and figure out how things can be done, in a digital space.
Awesome, PV. Just letting you know to everyone out there, that's what I'm talking about. I know it's hard during the pandemic to transition, work at home life, going digital, but it actually opened doors even for me, PB, to actually
Mhm,
do this. I opened up for Shepherd Therapy staffing. Um,
mhm,
early this year, and now
mhm,
not just to do the physical therapy work, but I'm starting a podcast, and it actually opened
mhm.
doors for me for opportunities to speak also. So
Yeah,
this is quite a
congratulations.
ride. Oh, thank you very much,
Mhm,
PB. This is quite a ride, so I'm also excited, and I get what you're saying, that this has forced us to step out of the box, or think outside the
mhm.
box, and
Correct.
I'm actually
Yeah.
liking it, I'll be honest with you.
There are a lot
Uh,
of advantages. Actually, I've always been a proponent of digital ministry,
yes.
even before. In fact, my dissertation for my doctorate is about digital ministry.
Awesome.
Long before anybody had the idea of the pandemic, you know, ruining everything. So
Mhm.
at that time that I was doing my dissertation, I was basically, promoting the idea of
Yes.
teaching online and doing things online. I was not very popular actually
Mhm.
in that sense. People thought I was, crazy. But I said, technology is here. We've got to learn
Correct.
how to use it. So
Ex-
when the pandemic came, suddenly, people would look at me as, like a pace setter because I've been talking about it quite early,
ex-
many years ago.
yes. And it's a game changer even in our field, because telehealth is really booming right now.
Right.
And most of
Mm-mm.
the brick and mortar clinics in the physical therapy world are switching to telehealth. So I agree with what you're
Mm-hmm.
saying, PB. So going
Right.
back
Yeah.
on leadership, how
Mm-hmm.
and when did you found out that you are called to be a leader of a church or an organization?
Well, that's interesting. I guess I was slowly exposed to situations that I was not really looking for. I did not wake up one day and say, say to myself, I'm going to be a leader.
Mm,
I, I am more, like I prefer to be in, just doing little things in the background. But I would always find myself in leadership situations, whether I was in college, and
Mm.
people are looking for who's going to be the president of the class. I get to be elected. So I really I don't know. Wherever I go, I just keep on
Yes.
moving into that role. Even
Yeah.
though I would always say choose somebody else, but they would say we think that you'll be the one. So I always
Yes.
get into a leadership situation, and slowly I embrace that. Slowly I
Yes.
realized that God was giving me that platform. So
Mm.
even as a pastor, when I entered the ministry, all I really wanted was, in fact, I told the Lord that this is true. You
Yes.
can actually
Yeah.
check you can ask my wife about this.
Mm-hmm.
My commitment to the Lord was to do anything, even be a janitor in the church. I was not
Wow.
really thinking about being a pastor. I said
Wow.
I'm open to anything for as long as I'm serving in the house of God.
Mm-hmm.
And then the most that I was dreaming of was to be
Mm-hmm.
part of the praise team. That's all.
Correct.
So being part of the praise team, that's all. But God has, I guess, a sense of humor. He keeps on putting me in situations where I have to teach and talk and lead.
Yes.
So yeah, eventually it became quite clear to me that that's the kind of role that I'll be playing in this world.
So that's awesome, PB. Follow up question:
Mhm.
Are
Yeah.
are leaders for you? For you, are leaders born or made?
Well, I've always been asked that question. In fact, I remember John Maxwell's answer to that question. I think it's
Yes.
really quite appropriate. He said, I have yet to meet a leader who has not been born." So
That's a good
you've got to be
answer.
born, somehow, in order to be a leader. But there are certain personalities, I suppose, depending on how you grew up and all of that,
Mm-hmm.
that might we might say that you would develop certain skills or competencies that can make you a leader, in especially in the general sense. Like I define leadership as the stewardship of credibility
Mm-hmm.
to influence people for the common
Correct.
good.
Mm-hmm.
That's my definition of
Can,
leadership.
can you
So
repeat that again, PB? So
well,
that
leadership is the stewardship of credibility
mm-hmm.
to influence others for the common good.
Awesome.
So
That's really
basically, yeah, you of course need to have credibility in the eyes of those that you are trying to influence. And then you've got to steward that credibility because it's not a static thing, it's a fluid kind of thing. You're credible today and you may not be credible tomorrow, depending on the choices that you're making. So credibility is a fluid investment and a gift from the Lord, and you've got to take care of that and steward
mm-hmm.
that, and to make sure that people will always perceive you as someone worthy to follow.
Yes.
And so you use that well, and you don't use that for wrong ends. You use that to influence others to bring about common good. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
goal. The goal is common good. And so yeah, so you learn those skills. But moving to the area of spiritual leadership, there's
Mm-hmm.
another component to that, and that's
Yeah.
the work of God in your life, and
Mm-hmm.
also where He places you. He gives you the credibility. Actually, He gives you the influence, and you have no control about that. It's
Mm-hmm.
like if you read the Bible, God would give 5 talents to one, 10 talents to
Mm-hmm.
another
Yes.
person.
Mm-hmm.
So it really it's a gift from the Lord. This thing called influence,
Mm-hmm.
and I've learned to live with that. I used to be a complainer when it comes to that aspect. I used to complain to the Lord, like, God, I think I deserve more influence than this.
Yes. Yes.
But through the years, as I grew older, I've learned to just accept what the Lord would give me in terms of influence. I
Mm-hmm.
might test it or push it, but whenever it becomes clear that God is not giving me that influence,
Mm-hmm.
I back down and say, "Yes, Lord." Like for example, there was a time that I wanted to go into a more motivational speaking kind of route.
Yes.
I wanted to I want to speak to uh, groups and places where
Mm.
I had some good motives. Of course, I wanted to proclaim Christ in that
Yes.
arena,
Mm-hmm.
but God closed the door and says, "That's not what I want for you." So
Yes.
um, I stopped,
Mm.
striving and learned
Yes.
to live with the reality of what God allows me. So right now, I'm just thankful for whatever influence
Mm.
God may give me. Mm.
Um, just want to let you know that you are a testimony to me because even though that we migrated, me and my wife migrated here in the United States, your impact, your influence has by the grace of God, has followed us, and we are able to participate, in a church organization of real life Christian communities, even you know through the pandemic, and we're more active now, and that is I
Mhm.
believe because of the leadership that you have
Well,
done
praise God.
in
Mm, mm,
RLCC. So we are grateful for
mm.
that. Just want to let you know.
Thank you. That's encouraging to know. And yeah, by the grace of God, that's really what I hope I could do as He
Mm.
allows me to do it.
Yes.
So if He allows me to touch your life and your wife's
Mm.
life and your children, then through
Yes.
you, maybe to others, I'll
Mm.
be happy. Whatever God would grant me, it will be
Yeah.
His, it's His choice and glory, that I'll
That
follow. Mm,
that is awesome. Thank you, PB. So
mm.
my third question is, what will you say is the greatest challenge that you have encountered as a leader so far? And you can expound a little bit of what happened to it.
Well, for me, the most difficult challenge of a leader is, you know, uh, influencing people into that vision that God is giving you, without violating their like freedom of choice and so
Yes.
forth, but really influencing them. In other words, you have this vision in your heart, which I hope you would pray for and really
Yes.
ask
Mm-hmm.
God for. But when it becomes clear to you that God is giving you a burden for something, translating that into reality is the hardest thing, because now you have to convince others that whatever it is that you're seeing is
Yes.
really worth pursuing.
Yes.
And then that's the hardest part, because the people are people, right? You know that
Yes. Mm-hmm.
you cannot just simply program them and tell them, just do this and do that. They would of course resist you
Yes.
tooth and nail. You've got to persuade, you've got to
Yes.
do it slowly, and you've got to be patient and accept the fact that not everyone would actually buy into whatever it is that you are thinking about, because there will always be laggers. Any
Yes.
kind of vision, that God may place in your heart.
Yes.
Uh, the visionaries would really jump into it quickly. You would
Yes.
notice that whenever you are in any kind of leadership situation, when you cast the
Mm.
vision, those who are what you might call, trendsetters, they immediately
Yes.
grasp your idea, and they would sometimes, they would be so zealous and carry it forward.
Yes.
And majority, of course, would just wait and see, to see whether you're going to fall flat on your face,
Yes.
or really make a fool of yourself. But then there will be those anti, like in my experience, I sometimes call them the anti PB, club. They would they would just they would just be
Uh-oh.
anti all the way.
Mm.
So hopefully, those number of people are shrinking, but I always have those people. So I just learn how to accept that. It's just part of the game.
Yeah. So meaning, if the more how would I say this, criticizers, the antis that you're talking about, do you say that it's an opportunity for growth in your leadership?
Well, there is a purpose why there are people like that. First of all,
Mm.
you don't want to fall into the trap of groupthink. Groupthink is that situation wherein everybody close to you
Mm.
just think the way you do, and they don't want to contradict you. That's a dangerous place to be.
Mm.
And so it's good that there are people who would stand up for you and people close to you, because
Mm.
there's a difference between deciding things and discerning things. Those are
Got
two
it.
different things.
Mm.
Deciding on something, of course you have to weigh the pros and cons, etc.
Mm.
There's the right way of deciding. But when you come to, well, the process of deciding, and then maybe when you have already decided, you've got to discern.
Mm,
And discernment means that you have to make a distinction, or you've got
mm,
to discriminate between different voices that you hear in your thoughts, in your mind, because not all of them are from God.
mm,
Some of the thoughts that come into your mind are just yourself.
yes.
Others come from the enemy. Remember, Satan came to Jesus and said, you
Mm,
know, I'll give you all these kingdoms if you would just follow me.
yes.
So how did he do that? I assume that it came into the thought life of Jesus. It came through his thoughts,
Yes.
because spiritual things usually come through thoughts. They do not
Agree.
come through the usual, senses. Like you don't hear an audible voice, but you come up with thoughts.
Mm,
And some of the thoughts and ideas that we come up with are not necessarily from God. And so it's very
correct.
important to discern,
Correct.
because we might actually be being misled by, for example, our need to prove
Mm,
something, or our pride, or some other thing that may not be so obvious to us at first. Because,
yeah.
the Bible says that something may appear to be right to a
Mm,
person, but
yes.
actually, like in the book of Proverbs, it says that, right? So sometimes you think something is right, and only to discover that it is not right. And also, the Bible says the heart is deceitful. So
Yes.
there's really a need to discern. As a
Yes.
leader, before I stand up, before and before the people that I
Mm,
lead,
yes.
I need to practice humility and discernment.
Yes.
And even while I'm expressing my thoughts, I do it in concentric circles,
Mm,
meaning I do not just immediately jump in front of the crowd.
correct.
I discuss it with my wife, I discuss it with my key leaders, I discuss it with,
Yes.
an increasing number of people, and I let them speak to me, whether
Mm,
good or bad, because I need to hear that, because I
yes.
can be blinded by my own zeal or passion.
Yes.
So it's good. God, it's God's gift. But of course,
Yeah.
there are times wherein, after you have talked with everybody, there's still some people who will not agree with whatever it is that
Yes.
you believe you should be
Mm,
doing. And that's a
I
point where you have to say now, okay, I'm fine with that. It's all
de-
right. You cannot convince everybody.
yes. I
But during the process, it's important to allow
mm,
people to speak to me,
yes.
especially those who are close to me. That's very crucial, because
Yes.
they know me more than anyone else. Mm.
Definitely. Um, I'll be honest with you, PB. I at first I'm really having a hard time accepting feedback. That's a major struggle. When I
Yeah.
yes, when I'm on the transition from being a full time employee and starting a business, of
Mhm,
course there are
mhm,
distractions. There are certain voices. What if I fail? What if And
mm,
I agree with what you're saying. You need to have a clear thought about deciding and also discerning to what is right, to what direction you want the organization or the church is heading to, because
yeah.
there are a lot of noises, I would say, along the way.
Mhm. Well,
So
God has created us to be co-laborers and co-creators with Him in terms of doing what is good. So, really, what is important is that, when we are going to do anything in the world with our
mm,
life, with the life that God has entrusted to us, that we are doing it under Him and with Him, that we are not simply going ahead. uh, of course, God will not just tell you and you're just passive. Like, Lord,
yes.
what do you want me to do, and I'll just do it. God wants
Mm,
you to come up with ideas, and to create. But He wants you to have pure motives in doing so.
yes.
So that's where God may actually guide you. But I don't believe He treats us as children. He wants us to
Yes.
become mature adults. So sometimes people would just say, "Oh Lord, tell me what you want me to do. I'll just
Mm-hmm.
wait here." No, I don't think that's how God would like to work with people. I
Agree.
believe He wants us to see the need and have a desire in our hearts and to pray about it. And it's in through that interaction that we gain clarity of what
Mm,
we believe the Lord would want us to do if He was us. I think that's a key thing.
yes.
What would Jesus do in my
Mm-hmm.
situation if He was me?
Yes.
in this situation. I believe that's the most important thing. And trying to discern that can be quite tricky because I need to be humble enough and indifferent, actually. The key word is
Mm-hmm.
indifferent. I should be indifferent in, not having an agenda and say, God bless this because this is my plan. That's a different thing.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
Like going to God and say, Lord, I have this nice idea. I'm excited
Mm-hmm.
about it. Would you bless it? So
Okay.
it's like using God, instead of
Yes.
saying,
Exactly.
God, I'm thinking about this, but please guide me whether this is just coming from my pride or this is just
Yes.
coming from my need to be somebody,
Yes.
or whether this is you inspiring me to come up with this good thing. Because any kind of work in the world has to do
Mm.
with adding value. You're adding value, you're creating value and adding goodness in the world because God is a
Yes.
good, good Father. So He wants you to add something good in this
Yes.
world.
I
And
definitely
so
agree.
there are many things that you can do that is good, of course.
Mm-hmm. Of
I can
course.
sing. Well, God may not want me to sing, or I can do something else, but the thing is, maybe that's not what the Lord would want me to do if He
Yes.
was me.
Uh,
So constantly having that openness of heart and seeing God's,
mm.
guiding hand in everything is the key, I believe. Not so
Yes.
much, I have this nice idea. I hope everybody agrees with it.
Mm-hmm.
For me, what is important is I really pay attention and I ask God, um, this thing that is rising up within my heart, I want to
Mm.
do it, but where is it coming from?
Yes.
I don't want to do it because I need to prove something to people.
Yes.
I want to do it because it is you inspiring me. The Bible
Yes.
says God is always at work in us to make us willing and able to do His will. So I
Yes.
believe that we need to pay attention to our desires. We need to pay attention to our thoughts,
Mm.
and we should listen to God carefully, and even
Mm-hmm.
ask people to co-discern with us.
Got it.
I think that's the process that I would recommend for any kind of
Yes.
leader. Mm.
Yeah, that's awesome, PB. I have a question regarding transitions.
Okay. Mm.
I heard before on our talk in the past that you were a
Mm.
staff member of a church organization before you heard the call to start RLCC. And how did that transition work for you from being, let's say, a staff member to really starting your own organization? Can you walk us through to
Well,
that journey?
well, I was not really a staff member. I was the senior pastor of another church before
Oh, okay, got
RLCC.
it. I
Okay.
see. Mm-hmm.
So right after my graduation from Bible school,
Mm-hmm.
my wife and I decided to leave the church that we were in. My wife was actually a staff in that big church.
Got it.
I was
Got it.
not a staff. I was a professional. I was working,
I
in
see.
Makati. Uh,
Okay.
you know, uh,
What
so I
job was
was
PB, if I may ask?
I was into advising people, in the stock
Oh,
market, in the
there we
commodities
go.
market. So I was a technical analyst.
Got
I
it.
would read graphs and charts and tell them buy this, sell that. That was my
Awesome.
job,
Mm.
and I was really very happy with that kind of job at first.
Yeah.
But eventually, God called me into the ministry, and so my wife, Joanna Ojina, has
Mm-hmm.
been serving in this large church of which I was also a member of.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, we felt God calling us to
Yes.
go out to plant a church. So we did not succeed at first. So we ended
Yeah.
up being the senior pastor of a small church uh, somewhere in Manila,
Got it.
and we stayed there for quite a while. I think for 4 years or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And things did not work out well again in that church. So that's when I felt, that I needed to move on. I won't bore you with all the details of
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
but
That's okay.
eventually, you know, uh, we were back to zero, so to speak. So
Mm.
my wife and I started with nothing, but then four other couples joined us
Got
and
it.
basically told us, "Where you go, we go. What do you want to do?" So I
Wow.
said, "Yeah, well, I don't know actually what we're going to do." So for a year, we were not really going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually, it became clear to us that God was leading us to San Pedro Laguna. That's how the
Okay.
church started.
And how many years is
So yeah,
RLCC now, PB, if I may
well, I
ask?
think about 24, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
We're
Look at
now on the
that, right?
24th year.
Uh-huh.
So I did not transition from being a staff to leading a church. I was actually pastoring a church. I was leading a church,
Mm-hmm.
but there were a lot of things that God was still working on in me.
Yes.
So yeah. So basically, when we planted the church, it was zero. We did not have anyone. We only had
Mm.
four other couples and their kids. That was the church that we were doing, and yeah, it just grew from there, and we
Yes.
were able to reach other people and so forth. Anyway, the rest of the story, as you know,
And now you can
that's what
reach out the
happened.
whole world through technology. By
Yeah,
God's
well,
grace.
God's grace, yeah, God willing, hopefully we can do that. Yes.
That's awesome. That's amazing. That's what God can do if you just open to serving
Well,
Him and to His
definitely, yeah.
leading.
Mhm. Just
Okay,
keep in step. That's the main thing. Keep in step. Don't run ahead,
there you
and
go.
don't lag behind. I think that's the key.
Oh,
The picture.
yep.
Don't lag behind. Don't run ahead. Just keep in step. Keep in
Agree,
step.
agree. All right.
Mm.
Here's some a little more of a wellness question.
Okay.
How do you keep yourself healthy physically as a leader? I know you have
Well,
a. Go ahead.
yes. I try to practice a rule of life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not always perfect at this, but I see to it that every Monday I rest. I don't do anything. I just enjoy the presence of God, listen to podcasts also, and and wait upon the Lord. Just enjoy creation and just be with my family. It's a rest time for me every Monday. As you well know, I cannot do it on a Sunday because
Agree.
for Pastor Sunday is the busy day, and we have to do a lot of things on Sundays. So yeah, I do that, and then as regularly as I can, I would walk, and
Mm-hmm.
I try to just eat a little bit, and not I just eat from a small bowl, not the large plate.
Not
For
a
many years
buffet.
now, I don't. Yeah, for many years I don't eat from a plate. I now eat
Yes.
just from a small
Wow.
cup, and I don't take second servings. In other words, I just for whatever it is that I put there, that's it. That's what I eat. Unfortunately, because of my age, I still, I still gain weight,
Okay.
and because of the pandemic, it's really a challenge. So,
Yes.
uh, walking around the neighborhood requires faith,
I agree. I agree.
hoping that there won't be any dangerous situation. So, right,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So that's what I try to do, but I hope I can do more. My family and I are thinking of buying a, what do you call that? Treadmill.
A
So
treadmill. Okay.
yeah, we're praying for that. We're praying that God would grant us a treadmill, so
Okay.
that even if it's raining, we can, run or something.
Yes.
I'm also praying for a bike. That's another thing
There
that
you
I'm
go.
praying for, so
Yes.
that
Yes.
whenever I buy things, I don't have to take my car. I always take my car, and it's just a lazy way of doing things. I like to just take a bike, and go.
Yes.
First of all, it's not too far, of course. I just
Of
want
course.
to,
Yeah.
bike. So those are the two things I wish I can do. By God's grace, I hope He would grant me the the resources for that.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
be praying for that, PB. Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah.
Yes, and definitely to the viewers out there. I mean, that's what lead well is all about, because I know, for high capacity leaders,
Mhm.
somehow the wellness or the being healthy on a day-to-day basis is somehow neglected. That's what I've been seeing. So don't get me
Mhm.
wrong. I mean, you can be the best teacher, the best CEO, president of a company, but I heard from PB also, life is also physical.
Right.
So
Yeah.
tell
I
me
shared
about
with
it,
you
PB.
the
Go
acrostic
ahead.
health many years ago, right? If you
Yes.
remember,
Mm-hmm.
I shared the acrostic health. Do you still recall that?
I cannot. Sorry.
HEALTH. Yeah. Well, well, very briefly,
Go
H
ahead.
is holiness, E
Mm-hmm.
is exercise, A is adequate rest and sleep,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and then L is low, everything that's bad, low of that, low salt, low
Yeah.
low fat, everything that's low.
Mm-hmm.
And then T is times of refreshing. You need to have
Okay.
time of refreshing. And then H would be health supplements.
There you go.
Right now, you need that. Okay, so that's a health. Holiness,
Awesome.
exercise, adequate sleep and water, low fat, low salt diet.
Exactly.
Uh, times of refreshing, and then health supplements.
Agree. Definitely agree.
I shared that
Um,
with you a long time ago. You forgot about it.
yes, PB. Of course, I'm not like also as sharp as I was 10 years ago.
You're
Or
getting older.
exactly, exactly. With two growing kids, times fly
Right.
so
Yeah.
fast.
Mm.
Yes. So
Yes. Yes.
here's a like a vision question. Where do you envision yourself 5 years from now as a leader of an organization?
Wow.
Just by faith.
Where do I envision myself? Well,
Just by faith.
what I really want to do is basically to raise up spiritual leaders and to provide tools that they can
Mm-hmm.
use uh, even when I'm gone. Those are the two things that I'd like to be able to do with the time that the Lord would allow me to have. So mentor leaders, develop them, raise them up, teach them what I know, and then leave behind, um, resources for sound teaching that they can use.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, those are a couple of things.
Yes.
That's just my dream.
Yes. And
So
people, go
mm,
ahead.
yeah, everything that I'm doing right now is basically toward that goal.
Mm. And I
Mm.
heard PB that, and I'm a follower by the way of your podcast. You can promote and share everyone out there
Thank you,
what you've been doing. Yeah, go ahead.
thank you. Well, they can just go to Koji period TO
Mm-hmm.
slash Bong Baylon with no space. So
Okay.
koji.to and then backslash Bong Baylon without space.
Awesome. And then
Yeah.
that's all that
Mm.
you've been doing because I've been hearing you doing some daily devotionals. You're doing your
Right. Yeah.
uh, own Bong Bailon podcast. I think you're
Mm-hmm.
uploading
Mm-hmm.
there some talks, some interviews. So that's really great spiritual stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
My daily devotional is not an ordinary devotional. I'm actually building training resources. So
awesome.
I use the daily devotional as my platform, but
Mm,
I am actually building resources. For example, I have the lead series right now in my daily devotional. So it's all
mm,
about leadership empowerment and development. So every talk that I do in the morning is toward that. So it's not like just getting a verse out of nowhere and just talking about it. I'm
mm,
building a series based material so that
mm.
once it's done, then I call it a lead series. So anybody who would like to understand leadership can just
Yes.
go through that from beginning to end. Yeah.
Yes. And for everyone that's listening right now, I'll put in some show notes about
Hmm.
those links later.
Yeah.
When you're
Koji,
oh
KOJI, that
yeah,
TO.
got it. PB, what's the time in the Philippines that you're doing those live daily devotion so I can also announce it here
Sure. Yeah,
on our
I do my live broadcast at 7 a.m. So I don't know
so that's
what
about
is the time difference.
6 p.m. here in the
6
US.
p.m. All
Central
right.
time,
Okay.
Central time. Yep.
Depends where you are, right? So if you're in
Yes.
California, that would be different.
Yeah. But I'm
So
staying on
yeah,
Central
it's
time.
7 a.m. I do it for about 45 minutes. And then
Got it.
it just becomes available on demand afterwards. Anybody can listen to it in many different places. In fact, if you Google my name, you'll probably know where my name is everywhere. Just
Bong
Google my
Bailon.
name.
All right.
Right, yeah.
That's awesome. For those that are wanting to start their own podcast, what will you give them some tips for everyone that is
Yeah,
wanting to have their own podcast?
the thing is it should add value. It should be
Yes.
helpful. If if your goal is to make money, that would be a different direction, really.
Mm,
Uh, but when you want to help people, you know, resources would come to you eventually because
yes.
you have a good heart. You want to help people. So it's not about gaining likes or whatever. It's
Mm,
about doing something that anybody who comes across that material would say, "Wow, this is great,"
yes.
and it's going to help me. So that's the key thing. So in my work, that's what I'm always trying to think about. What would help? What would help somebody? So
Mm,
sometimes I would write a blog
mm,
because I think that would be the best avenue to do something, to help people. Or sometimes I would do a broadcast.
Got
It
it.
depends.
Hmm.
But
Yes.
I've cut down a lot of things already. So my broadcast daily devotional is just Monday to Friday, and there's
Okay.
nothing else that I do, other than that. And then
Yes.
Sunday, of course. So I limit myself. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you pick out the thing, as you know, as a leader, that a thing that you think will have a more lasting impact? Or how do you organize that? Like you said, you're cutting down. How do you can you expound on that? Because are you doing a lot of things before and now you're cutting down?
Yeah, because for me, there are basically five things that I need to have time for. And if I don't have time for those five things, I think I'm too busy.
Got it. Got it.
So the first thing is to practice personal soul care.
Got it.
So if I'm not able to take care of my soul, I think I'm just too busy with a lot of things. I will cut off other things. So I need to be able to live my life in such a way that I can notice and pay attention to
Mm-hmm.
the movements of God in my soul, because the number one enemy of spirituality is busyness and
Ooh.
hurriedness. So
Wow.
I would always try to ask myself, can I still hear God? Am I still able to notice if God were speaking to me or
Mm-hmm.
leading me? Or am
Mm-hmm.
I deaf, to that?
Yes.
So that's one way. The second thing is I need to pursue life giving relationships, and that requires
Mm-hmm.
time. First of
Yes.
all, with my family, with my wife, with my children, with close friends, but also generally with the Christian community that I belong to.
Mm-hmm.
So, pursuing life giving relationships is a sacrifice, listening
Yes.
to people,
Ooh.
uh, building, deepening relationship and all that kind of stuff. It won't
Mm-hmm.
happen overnight, right?
Yes.
And
Agree.
then thirdly, is I need to make sure that I'm proclaiming the gospel,
Mm-hmm.
because if I'm not proclaiming the good news, there's something wrong. I would
Yes.
see that as an imbalance in my life. So I
Yes.
would always ask myself, where am I or what am I doing that is directly tied to proclaiming the gospel? Am I
Ag-
pointing people to Jesus? Am I
Agree.
helping them to become followers of Christ?
Yes.
And then fourthly is I need to make sure that I'm producing good fruit,
Yes.
that in fact producing followers of Christ and other
Mm-hmm.
servant leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And then last but not the least is I want to make sure that I'm still able to provide spiritual direction whenever it's
Mm.
needed by people. So those are the five things that I try to test myself in to make
Yes.
sure that I'm not too busy.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to be able to do those five things well. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm really very encouraged to everything that you have said, PB, and
Hmm.
of course, I'm praying that this will also minister to the leaders that have been doing this like more than 30 years, or those upcoming leaders of an organization,
Yeah.
or those who want to start their own organization. So I'm praying that this
Yes.
will really
Hmm.
be a helpful tool for them. So before we end this conversation, PB, we'll do like a quick fast talk, just one answer, one
Okay.
sentence, that and that's it. Okay. Make it fast.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Hopefully. Yeah.
So let's get at it. Favorite foreign band?
Foreign
Even
band.
how old it is, it's okay.
I guess Toto.
Toto, okay.
Yeah.
Nice,
Or
nice.
Holy Notes. Holy Notes, maybe.
Holy
Yeah.
notes. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we know what era you're digging
Yeah.
those music, okay?
All right.
All right. Favorite food?
Japanese.
Japanese. What specific one?
Yeah. Well, raw fish, sashimi, that kind of
There we
thing.
go.
Yeah, that's what I love to eat.
Yes. Awesome. Favorite leadership quote?
Everything rises and falls on leadership.
Is who's that? Is that John Maxwell?
John Maxwell. Yeah.
Yes, awesome. I have a quote for
Mm.
you guys from PB. He
Uh,
said, "Change is good."
right. Yeah. Change is good. That's my favorite too. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Encouragement to your 25-year-old self.
uh, yeah. Just persevere. You have a lot to learn.
Yep. Definitely, definitely. Any parting words to our audience and encouragement for leaders and future leaders out there?
Well, I believe that discipleship should lead to leadership. And so everyone is called to be a leader.
Mhm.
But it depends on whether you'll have a formal leadership role or not.
Yes.
But since leadership is the stewardship of credibility, I
Hmm.
hope that by the grace of God, that's what we will pay attention to, and that's what we would really aim for. That we would have credibility, because it's leadership is not about position or titles. It's not
Yes.
even about how famous you are. It's
Hmm.
about your credibility, because that's where everything starts and falls. Once you lose credibility, it's very hard to regain it back. So it's important to steward that well, under God and with God. Mhm.
Yes. Amazing. It's
Mhm.
I believe that wherever you're heading to, PB, I'm praying that God will surely bless it along with Pastor Gina. Um,
Mhm.
and I'm praying that you will expand more of your influence. And that's what
Yeah.
my takeaway today. Leadership is stewardship of your credibility. So that's my
Right.
takeaway. And
Mm.
thank you for that.
Mhm.
And I'll
Mhm.
ponder on it for the rest of the week.
Yes. I hope we
uh,
can visit you again there, God willing.
Oh
So
yes, it's
maybe,
been a while. I'm
yeah.
praying that all this pandemic and everything will come to an end by God's grace, so that we can all. I'm hoping that it will not change back to just one way and not doing like Zoom meetings like this. But I think God will use everything available just to
Mhm.
speak His word out there, and also we can train more leaders down the road.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Mhm.
All right.
Mhm.
Thank you, PB, and have a wonderful rest
Thank
of
you.
your evening there.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.